Namaskar. You are tuned to Just Hindi, our program in search of truth. And today we are discussing about different kind of gurus and teachers. And we have with us Dr. Murthy Murthuswamy. He is a writer, he is a physicist, and he has done a lot of studies on religious radicalism. Now we will be talking to Murthy ji. Murthy ji, you are here on the line?
Well, I'm here as well. Thank you, Shani ji. Thank you for the opportunity.
And Murthy, you must have heard about this quote, fools learn from their own experiences, wise learn from others' experiences. As we have seen, when the child is born, we all are human beings. When the child is born, he gets nurtured from the mother, he goes to primary school, he goes to college, and in between he comes across some religious gurus, they call religious gurus. When he comes across religious gurus, his life changes, his direction changes. Somehow, because these religious gurus are like messengers from the God, and nobody has seen the God, but they call themselves they are the messengers, or they have heard what the God has said and all kind of things. So, before we go in detail about that, let me ask you, in our program, as we are talking about in search of truth, how the truth is so important in life?
Yes, Sani ji, that's a very good point. Truth is about knowing the reality about what is happening around us, having the correct knowledge. Only with correct knowledge we can build a car, we can travel in a plane.
Very good.
So truth is the basis of having the correct knowledge. So when it comes to religious radicalism, which is what we are going to talk about today, it is important again that we know the truth. Then only we can address this dangerous and important issue of our time.
So, now question is how you came across this topic and how you started working on this idea of doing the research on that. Being a physicist, naturally your mind works in a very logical and planned way. So, you wrote a book also on terrorism, you have written many essays and articles also on that. So, tell me how you got interested into this.
Right. That's an interesting question for me to answer, Shani ji. First of all, let me tell the listeners how important the issue of religious radicalism is.
Okay.
We all know I lived in New York, and you lived in New York at that time, still
yes.
do. In 2001, 2 planes hit World Trade Center, which we used to visit often, and the centers collapsed. So America has been fighting this war for a long time. It invaded Afghanistan to get rid of terrorists who planned and initiated this terrorist attack. Still, 18 years past 2001, we are still fighting this war. And unfortunately, I can tell you that as per a study conducted by a think tank in Washington, D.C., 4 times number of terrorists, Islamic jihadis operating in the world as they were in 2001. So the religious extremism or radicalism is still a potent force. In the meantime, United States government alone has spent over $5 trillion
yes.
on fighting this. And in addition to that, this terrorism has destabilized parts of Middle East and even South Asia. As a result, a lot of people have left these regions and they have come to Europe. And it has created its own problems. So this is a very important issue. It's not going away. So we have to understand the truth behind why this is happening. I'm hoping that in this interview and this opportunity, I can provide some insight into people as to what is really causing it.
This is very, very important thing, because the whole world is looking to find the solution and they don't find solution. Now, tell me something about yourself.
Right. So, like many of you, I came to America for higher studies.
Okay.
And before that, I was born and brought up in South India. And even though I was born and brought up in South India, I did get a flavor for North India because I studied in BITS Pilani, which is near Delhi. So again, I got to know Indians from all over India. So this is my background. I got my master's degree in physics. And then I said to myself, I want to do a PhD in physics. and read about Einstein and other great scientists, I said, you know what, I like this field. So I said, I'm going to study this in America. So I came to America in '84 and enrolled in a graduate university in New York area. And then I got my PhD in 1992. So I got my PhD in 1992. And so at that time, there was no big religious radicalism in India. And then if you then advance forward several years after that, then religious radicalism was becoming an issue everywhere. And I thought, this is going to happen in India also. And so I started to get curious, and I said, I don't think India has got a good understanding of what is going on with its minorities and how they are being radicalized. Perhaps I can try and understand this complex topic. So that is how I got into it.
Very good, very good. Now, one thing is very clear. If you see that Islam came only 1400 years back, and now they are occupying many countries. Officially they got 56 nations. And when I look around, all the people who are living in those countries, they are all converts. They were not Muslims in the beginning. The Muslim invader came and they converted them. They took away their wives, they took away their wealth. And as per the historical facts, more than 600 million people have died because of Islamic expansion. That's the truth. And most of the media will not talk about it. But then question comes, when people don't understand about this religious radicalism, what do you have to say about that? Why they don't understand this thing? Even after 600 million people have died and billion has been converted.
Right. Take India's own neighborhood, for example. You were born and brought up in what is now known as Pakistan.
Okay.
So when partition happened, your family moved from what is now called Pakistan to Delhi area.
That's
so
very
I can
true.
tell you that in 1950s, the Hindu and Sikh population in what is now called Pakistan, it's about over 20%.
Okay.
Now it is less than 2%.
Less than 2%?
Even in the Kashmir, which we are hearing so much about, in the Pakistani part of Kashmir, there were a lot of Hindus and Sikhs too. In fact, when I was doing my PhD in New York, I came across one fellow. I was talking to him. He's originally from Pakistani part of Kashmir. He told me that his family was a Hindu family, but then when the partition came, in order to keep their wealth and stay in Pakistan, they converted to Islam.
Wow.
So, and then his friends and relatives some of them who didn't want to convert, became refugees in India.
Wow.
So again, this is one aspect of religious radicalism that is not able to coexist, that is not able to tolerate other faiths.
So your studies show that a lot of people wanted to save their lives, save their wealth, and they just converted.
Right, and people have taken generations to build up wealth and standing in a community and in a society, and they don't want to give away all of that and become refugees with the uncertain future.
Right.
So this is the reason why so many people converted, and so that's the reality of Pakistan and India partition.
So do you think who is playing the big role of conversion, and when the people get converted, they don't have any guts and feeling to return back to their culture? Even I think when Saudi Arabia expanded all the way and they sent their soldiers to convert people, but now the whole world has changed. Today is a world of freedom. Today is the era of freedom. Why people are not ready to reconvert? Why countries who have been converted are reconverting themselves? Like look at Pakistan, the situation is very bad. Now look Punjabi Hindu and versus Punjabi Muslim. There is a lot of difference. Look at a Bengali Hindu versus Bengali Muslim. There is a lot of difference. They are same culture, but ones who converted to Islam and one who remain as a Hindu, there is a lot of difference in living. One person lives free, he can have any kind of dress, any kind of food, but other people who are converted, they are restricted to follow one path only. So now this what you call religious radicalism is coming from where? Who is behind this? Who are their teachers?
So let us talk about even what happened in Pakistan in the 1950s.
Okay.
What happened was so the Hindus who left behind after partition and the Sikhs who left behind wanted to stay back in Pakistan because they lived there for thousands of years.
Right.
But what happened was, this is all documented, religious leaders incited the majority population to target them and to drive them out from Pakistan.
Oh.
So this is what happened. So the religious radicalism, even in the 1950s, was headed and spearheaded, if you will, by religious leaders. So that is the answer to your question. So now we are in 2018, and you asked a question. Well, what happened in the last 20, 30 years with religious radicalism?
Right.
So again, what we are finding out from, I discussed in my recent research articles is that it is religious leaders, again, who are leading this movement of religious conservative ideas that they don't want to accept modernity. They don't want their people to embrace modern education and to integrate with their community. The reason why some Muslims look different, or even many of them, from the rest of the people is because their religious leaders tell them, no, you have to dress in a certain way.
Okay.
You have to study in a certain way. So in many ways, they are micromanaging the life of many of these people.
So I think, Murthy, this is very
aspect of religious radicalism.
So Murthy, you are talking very interesting subject, and we'll take a break and come back right away. Okay? Thank you. Please stay tuned. Namaskar, this is your host Arish Sahani, and you are watching In Search of Truth. And today we have an expert on terrorism, Mr. Dr. Murthy Muthuswamy, and he is going to give us some inside knowledge because he has written a book on terrorism. So he was talking in the previous half program, how terrorism gets developed. It is the religious gurus who wants to keep a lot of people, some people, into some narrow thinking. So Murthy, you were talking about these religious gurus who are having a control on the minds of the people. How these people cannot get out of those what you call trap actually? Is it not a necessity of the government, or is it a necessity of the media? Is it not the requirement of the world that these people should be got out of those bondage from few religious leaders who are controlling them, telling them to do this, do that, and not letting them to be free?
Right. So to answer that question, we need to find out why public is listening to these people.
Very good point. Why people listen to them.
Let me give you one flavor here.
Okay.
We all heard of Afghan Taliban. So who established Afghan Taliban? Is a religious leader by the name of Muhammad Omar. And you have heard of Boko Haram, which is in Nigeria, killing a lot of people.
Oh.
And who founded that jihadist group? It is a religious leader by the name of Muhammad Yusuf.
Okay.
An Islamic State's leader, who is a leader of Islamic State, a religious scholar by the name of Abu Akbar al-Baghdadi. Even Al-Qaeda was founded by a religious leader by the name of Abdullah Azam. So this is the religious leaders are the brains and operational leaders in many ways behind these violent jihadist groups. So the question is, why are so many people willing to listen to them and follow them?
Correct. Very good question.
That's the most important question. And through my research, I have found that what religious leaders have done is they have went and told the public that there is something called Sharia, which is God's law.
God's law.
And they tell people the way they interpret Islam is God's law, and that is what they should listen. If they do that and live their life, then they become pious and observant Muslims. So in other words, religious leaders, this is the way they control their people.
But now, Murthy, one question comes in my mind. We human beings having a good mind. Everybody has got a mind. Everybody has a mind to think. Now, question is how the word of God is being accepted by the people without analyzing it. Is it a God's word, or it is the people who wants to control me and make me to do His way? I'm born as a Hindu. My gurus, my religious teachers don't tell me something like that. How some people are telling these other people are watching us that, hey, I'm living like a free life. How come he cannot compare me with him and analyze himself what's right or wrong? As I said in the beginning, there's a quote, fools learn from their own experience, wise learn from others' experiences. So we are here to show them that how we are living and how happy we are. Look, in the last so many years, has Islamic nations prosperous? Have they given good engineers, doctors, scientists? Answer is no.
Right. So the reason is why the people listen to these religious leaders.
Very good point.
What happened was in the 50s and 60s, a lot of people did not listen to them.
Okay.
And what happened was, then this is where Saudi Arabia comes into picture. So Saudi Arabia has always been a very conservative, orthodox religious nation.
For thousands of years.
Hello?
For thousands of years.
Thousands of years.
Yeah.
It got this oil wealth. Because of oil wealth, Saudi Arabia did not have to reform. It could live the way it has always lived, and then still use this money to preach to Muslims all over the world that the true Islam you have to live by is an Islam we practice, which is called Wahhabi version of Islam.
So now let me ask you a question.
Sharia is given very great importance.
Murthy, let me interrupt you.
The law of the land in Saudi Arabia.
No, Murthy, let me interrupt here. Now, people in Saudi Arabia also like human beings like us. They have also brain. Don't they see what's going on in the world, and don't they compare themselves with the world and see what they are, how others are living, how they are living, and that they should be change should be made?
Well, as you know, until recently, Saudi Arabia did not even have movie theaters.
Oh.
So the exposure of the Saudi people to modern civilization until recently has been quite limited.
But then let's leave Saudi Arabia, but look at the other world, which is Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Muslims in India. They are getting all the information of the world. So they should not be having a problem understanding how the world should run.
Well, that is what you would think. But what happened was Saudi Arabia spent close to $200 billion building mosques and training the religious leaders from different countries and telling them that they should go back and preach Wahhabi version of Islam to their people. When people heard, they heard, hey, I'm coming from a holy land. I got trained in holy land.
Oh.
This is how you should practice Islam. And see how much God has endured Saudi Arabia because they practice the true Islam. So all of that encouraged a lot of people to practice Islam the way Saudi Arabia has practiced. So that is what has happened. So as a result, religious leaders became very powerful in many communities, and not only that, their ideas, the ideas they sell, they advocate, have become quite popular in many countries. So as a result, we now have a phenomenon called religious radicalism, which has now spread all over the world, including, of course, India.
So you think that our situation is worse than 2001, when the World Trade Center was destroyed?
Yes, there are many measures of that.
Oh.
For example, the one I mentioned, there are 4 times more number of jihadis operating around the world compared to 2001. So that is one indication that this problem has worsened. Yes, America has been able to protect itself better, but still, overall, around the world, the situation has become worse. For example, in Sri Lanka, which was a peaceful nation with regard to religious radicalism until recently, had a massive attacks by jihadis. So again, it took decades to indoctrinate these people and to make them believe in radicalism. So what you see is that overall the situation has become worse.
No, you are very correct actually. If the way you have studied and the way you are telling us, we have seen the last 10 years the Middle East is all finished. People don't live there anymore. There is no business there. There is no life anymore. A lot of people have run away from there and have populated now Europe. And Europe is getting radicalized also. So do you think the world is getting into some kind of problem with your studies?
It is already a problem.
It's already a problem.
India 30 years ago was a secular state. It was a stable secular state.
Correct.
Now, by and large, the country is destroyed. Islamic State was occupying it until recently.
Okay.
America had to spend a lot of money to get rid of Islamic State. Still there are several jihadist groups operating in Syria right now. So again, these are all indications that that the situation has worsened all over.
So now you, as you have been studying radicalization, and do you think you have a solution?
Well, I think that we collectively are beginning to understand the radicalization better and better.
Okay.
I think that now we are able to identify, as I explained, what causes radicalization. It is the religious leaders, their ability to influence people and using Sharia as God's law. So that is a platform they are using to spread radical ideas.
So now question comes, the whole world is more civilized than before. After World War I, World War II, people suffered a lot. We have rebuilt the nation. Germany was rebuilt, Japan was rebuilt. How come people who has converted to Islam are not trying to see the positive side of what's good in the world and change themselves rather than we go out and change them? Is it not important now? Now let me go back to India now, because India, what happened in Kashmir is a more or less indicator that whole world is watching us as if India has done a big crime. Well, India is trying to liberate the people who are living in bondage, and the woman is free, triple talaq is gone, 370 is gone, 35A is gone, so people can move freely, people can go in and out. There was no business in Kashmir. Modi has said now it will give the boom to the Kashmir. Why people who are following Islam think that this is bad?
Well, let's talk a little bit about the history of Kashmir.
Okay.
I wrote my book in 2009, Defeating Political Islam. So at that time, Kashmir was not that radicalized.
Okay.
But I did note in my book that countries such as Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, etc., have been gradually radicalizing the Kashmiris, and that in another 10-15 years, the situation is going to get worse. And that is what exactly happened. Not only in Kashmir. Now, the terror cells are becoming more and more active in Tamil Nadu and Kerala.
Wow.
And it takes decades to indoctrinate people, and the results start coming out in the form of radicalization and then attacks. So coming back to Kashmir, so what happened was the Indian government, the successive Indian governments, saw what was happening, which is the radicalization, but did nothing to stop it.
So now question comes, as we are running
more radicalized,
okay.
And then finally the Indian government realized that they had no other choice but to revoke Article 370 and to bring it under the ambit of Indian Constitution fully.
Okay, now as we are running out of time and we will be closing our program very soon, give me your last message to our viewers when they see these radical religious things and when they see these religious gurus preaching this. What is our duty, in short?
Well, we have to make them understand and see that these religious leaders, those who do these type of activities, are selfish people.
Selfish people.
I think that is the important thing, that until the people under their grip, that there is so much knowledge and freedom in the world, they should take advantage of it rather than listen to self-serving ideas of religious leaders.
Very good point. I hope that our media, like we are talking on our Just TV, other media will catch up with this idea of religious gurus who are destroying the world more or less. It takes a lot to create anything. Now we build roads, we build houses. Now you see Syria, how it has been totally destroyed, all because of simple reason people don't know what they are doing. So with this we conclude our program, and we thank everybody by joining our program in Search of Truth. Please keep watching us. धन्यवाद.